Testing, testing, check, check. Too bad. Yeah. No, I don't think it's a wireless mic. It's what it is that it's still showing the mic from this thing. It's not showing the jack. The driver's not here for that thing or whatever. Okay.
That's why he reached over.
Yeah, and these are wireless. Okay. Meeting will come to order. Okay, the meeting will come to order. I find that the warrant for this annual town meeting has been properly executed and that it was properly served and return of service made by Constable Matthew J. King. We are in session. As is our custom, we'll begin the meeting tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to call upon Selectman Alex McCurdy to lead us in the pledge tonight. Thank you. All right, before we begin the business of the town meeting, and I'll go over the ground rules, so to speak, and describe some of the procedures that we're going to use tonight, I'd like to recognize Selectman Joe Knox for a presentation.
On a special occasion, the Board of Selectmen and the townspeople of Littleton would like to honor our most honorable selectman, Mr. Alex McCurdy. I have had the pleasure of sitting with him for 8 years. He's had 9 years on the board. It's been a great pleasure. A man of dedication and hard work who always stood by what he believed. I have this plaque for you tonight, Alex, and it reads, presented to Alex S. McCurdy in recognition of over 20 years of distinguished service, the Board of Selectmen offers its sincere appreciation to Alexander Steele McCurdy for his leadership and dedication to the town of Littleton and its residents. The Board of Selectmen, and your name is on there with the years that you served from the Board of Selectmen.
I truly didn't expect this, but I'm never at a shortage for words. I got to see people in this town, and well, I came here in 1993, and I got to see people in this town coming into this world as residents and leaving this world as residents. I got to see people in very sad circumstances and very happy circumstances. And when I left being fire chief and came being a selectman, it was a different world. I never had that planned. But I've enjoyed my 9 years as a selectman a tremendous amount. And the reason is all of you. The people that are here in this audience, that are throughout the town, that I met day and night over all those years, you made my service fun. You made my mission a mission worthwhile. So I am honored and privileged to have served you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We'll get started. Just a few things to go over in the beginning. Hopefully, as you checked in, or even before that, you probably received in the mail a copy of the town meeting report. And if not, please get your hands on one, because you'll need it to follow tonight's proceedings. Also, there's a yellow sheet at the check-in table that reflects late-breaking information on a couple of articles, information that wasn't available when this booklet went to press. So between the town meeting report and the yellow update sheet, you should have everything that you need tonight. Please note the closest emergency exits in the event it becomes necessary to use them. We're using, for the first time tonight, new wireless microphones, and they work best if you hold them close to your chin. Let's say, as you hold them down lower, it's harder to pick up the sound, so please speak directly into them when you come to the microphone. We also have a wireless microphone available for some of the seniors sitting in the front section. We will have the standing microphone in the center. If you're able to come to that microphone, we'd ask that you continue to do so. Those that might have a little difficulty making it to the microphone and standing in line for a long time, we can arrange to have a microphone brought to you. And I thank the Council on Aging for making that a priority and working with us to make that happen tonight. The guidelines for the town meeting, it's very simple. If you wish to speak, you must be recognized by the moderator. All questions come through the moderator to whichever official or department head you wish to ask the question of. Personal remarks and rude or disrespectful speech will not be tolerated. We haven't really had a problem with that. I feel obligated to say it, but it has not been a problem. Thank you for that. At 7:30 or thereabouts, we will adjourn to take up the business of an 8-article special town meeting. Our custom is to begin the annual town meeting and adjourn to a special town meeting as soon as we can after 7:30. Sometimes we've been right in the middle of the budget Article 4, when that happens. And I thought about that a little bit, and my decision tonight is whatever article we're on, we'll finish that article before we start the special town meeting. So it might be that we start a little late with the special town meeting, but if we're in the middle of the budget, we're going to go forward and make that a priority. All right, with that, we'll move to consideration of the annual town meeting warrant. We'll be using the consent calendar procedure, which was first instituted in 2007, and we've had good luck with it, whereby we bundle articles that experience has taught us are generally non-controversial, routine, predictable, if you will. The list is on page 7 in your booklet. The way that it works is I will read through the list of those articles. Anyone that has a question on any of those articles or wishes to debate those articles needs to stand and yell out "hold" in a loud voice, and we'll pull those articles aside and deal with them separately. The articles that are not held, we're going to take one affirmative vote that will be inclusive of the specific motions for those articles. So in essence, we have 10 articles that are proposed for the consent calendar. We'll shortly be asking you to take a vote on all 10 of them, presumably at once, with the unanimous consent of the body. This has speeded things up in the past and leaves more time to talk about the more significant articles that many of you have come to talk about. So we'll begin with the consent calendar. Article 1, Town Officers. Article 3, FY 2016 Revolving Funds. Article 11, Stabilization Fund. Article 12, Capital Stabilization Fund. Article 13, School Trust Fund Grants. Article 14, Senior Citizens and Veterans Tax Work-Off Abatement Programs. Article 15, Use of Chapter 90 Mass DOT Funds. 20, Borrowing Authorization. 21, Compensating Balance Agreement. And 22, FY 2016 Personal Exemption Amount. I didn't hear a hold on any of those 10 articles. Does anyone have a question on any of those 10? If not, we'll proceed to a vote, and we'll vote them as a package. So seeing no questions, all those in favor of adopting the articles in the consent calendar, which are Articles 1, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 21, and 22. All those in favor of those 10 articles, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. It's a unanimous vote. Madam Clerk, please so record that the consent calendar is passed and those 10 articles have been disposed of. Thank you very much. We will now turn to Article 2 on the annual town meeting warrant, which is the annual report, moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to accept all printed reports of town officers and committees as published in the 2014 annual town report. All right, you'll see that the Board of Selectmen supports Article 2, which is their responsibility to present the annual report to town meeting for acceptance. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to Article 2? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. All right, and those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. Article 3, we have already voted, so this moves us to Article 4, which is the FY 2016 operating budget. I'll read the motion to put Article 4 before the body of town meeting, and then we will have a presentation from the Finance Committee. The chair of the Finance Committee, Betsy Bowling, will give that presentation. Moved and seconded by the Finance Committee that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $36,576,868 and transfer from the funds specified herein the sum of $1,023,242 for a total of $37,600,110 to defray the expenses of the various departments of the town as specified herein, and to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officials for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015. Finance Committee?
Good evening. I get to stand in front of the fan. That's not a bad thing. Okay. All right, this will be short and sweet, I hope, tonight. The highlights from balanced budget. Balanced budget, always a good thing, right? And we've managed to cover our capital and maintenance needs within the levy as well, so there's no overrides for that. We do have agreement last fall town meeting. You remember there was a lot of discussion on the Community Preservation Act. There's a lot of work done on that in the last month, and there's agreement on that, and Keith will talk about that later, but it was a highlight of the year in terms of the work we were doing, I think. All right, so a few more details. The increase of the total spending plan for last year is 2.83%. Last year it was over 3%, so it's a little bit less, a little bit tighter this year. But we do have level staffing, how we managed to get the balanced budget, and $254,000 from mitigation and conservation land acquisition funds, cell tower funds, went into this newly created Community Preservation Act fund. And again, there'll be another presentation on that later. I just wanted to have a highlight in here. What I want to talk a little bit about tonight, though, is the capital. A couple things about this. One is, so that people understand, we talk about financial policies a lot in the town, and a lot of what's been done over the past many years as a new finance staff is here and so on, is to make sure we have policies and procedures in place so that one-time money is always used for one-time events, right? So when debt reduction comes around and other things, maybe there's free cash from the last year, there's policies that say how much of that's going to use for other one-time things. We're not going to use that money to hire people or things that are going to have annual and recurring costs. So because of that, because of those policies we have a good amount of money to spend on capital to maintain our physical plant and the things that we have now and to buy new equipment that we need. It's a very important part of the financial stability of the town. So some of the highlights this year that are being purchased in our capital plan, things from a fire pumper, there's a highway backhoe. In addition to capital items like that, and these are all in your book, but this is just a summary. We have over $400,000 going to maintenance. This is from the facility study that was done a couple years ago to have a long-range plan to make sure that, again, all these assets that we have now, that we're maintaining them and keeping them in good order so we don't have more costs down the way to replacement. So $400,000 going for that. $180,000 going to the Capital Stabilization Fund. Just because the money's there doesn't mean we have to spend it, right? So you take a hard look at what's on the list, what the needs and the wants are, and determine. We also know that we have a fire station we may have to build, we may have to expand the library, we may need to buy a new ladder truck, I think it is. We know there's other things coming, so some of this is going into the Capital Stabilization Fund as well. And then because it was a tighter year, also $100,000 for the master plan for the town. Again, a one-time event, one-time money going to one-time items, not recurring costs. And then we also allotted some additional capital to Park and Rec and schools this year. It was a tighter year. In order to meet their mission budgets and fulfill their goals, we were able to do that. Last year, you might recall, our bond rating got increased to AAA. This is really important, and this also ties into my theme of policies and procedures, because a big part of that rating is that the town has policies and that you follow the policies that you have. This is what they're looking for, that you be consistent and that you're following your policies. So we've got that. This literally saves us over the course of a 20-year bond and so on, millions of dollars. This is really important. Working on that and these financial policies are the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, the School Department works with us on that. CPC came in and worked with us, and obviously the town staff, tremendous work on this. So there's a lot of cooperation that happens to put this all in place, but the goal of all that is the long-term financial stability of this town. And looking forward, again, my long-term theme, I'm glad we have a balanced budget this year. We're very happy to present that to you this year. But there's always next year and the year after, and we're always looking at that as well. It's not just about this year. So as we look forward, what's happening in town, you have to look at what is the new growth going to be, what's the impact, we don't know yet what the impact of the schools to be to some of the new residential developments happening in town, demand for additional public safety. Things change. We expect more from the government now. Our fire department is really almost an ambulance department now, and we need really fast response on that. We have new commercial development. We need new police department, or new police, not department, some new police officers. Those kind of things are always being looked at, right? And people's expectations of the government are just higher now than they used to be. And so all that's always being evaluated. The demographers tell us that the town is aging, so you all must be getting older. I am too, but trying to get a laugh. I guess it didn't work, but anyway. So we have to look at that as well and see what are the needs of the town going forward as the town changes. And we also had some discussions this year about recreational services, that Park and Rec and Community Ed are part of the fabric of the town. Some of that is self-sustaining. There's sports programs and so on that are self-funding. But there's a beach that may not be totally self-funding. And there's Halloween parades and some other things that people think are an important part of Littleton. And so we have to have some discussions about that, how much that gets funded out of the regular town budget. And OPEB is always hanging out there in terms of our financial responsibility for our retirees for health insurance and so on. And so we don't know, we never know what the state's going to change requirements, so we're working on that. We're putting more away. But it's on our futures list that we're always keeping an eye on. Anyway, that's it. That's my nutshell. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question, sir? If you please go to the microphone so we can all hear your question.
How does the development of the point impact our revenues?
Okay, thank you. How does the development of the point affect our revenues?
Bonnie Holston, Finance Director for the town. The new growth of all of the developments, so the point and the residential developments, get added into the tax levy amount that we can raise. So for this fiscal year, we're projecting about $850,000 in new growth. However, primarily, it's residential growth at this point, even with what's going on at the point.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll proceed with consideration of the operating budget. And as we've done in the past, we handle it as what's called a partial division of the question. I will read the total for each department, and if anyone has a question on any of those departmental totals, please raise your hand and call out hold in a loud voice so we know that you've got a question. We'll go through the whole operating budget, and then we'll take a vote on everything that wasn't held, and then our custom is to go back and then deal with those items that were held. So I will begin with Department 114, Moderator, 100. 122, Selectman/Town Administrator, 202,470. 131, Finance Committee, 1,200. 132, Reserve Fund, 150,000. 135, Finance and Budget, 674,244. 151, Legal, 250,000. 155, Information Systems, 288,824. 161, Town Clerk, 77,811. 162, elections and registrations, 8,700. 171, Conservation Commission, 20,545. 175, Planning Board, 65,952. 176, Appeals Board, 5,557. 191, Building Maintenance, 432,160. 193, General Insurance, 350,000. 194, Employee Retiree Benefits, 6,809,203. 196, Town Report/Town Meeting, 5,000. 197, Cable Studio. The net is 0. 210, Police and Dispatch, 1,738,186. 220, Fire and EMS, 811,575. 241, Building Department, 112,979. School Department, 17,250,000. 301, Technical School Expenditures, 494,448. 420, Highway Department, 1,398,464. 422, Roadway Repairs, 695,394. 423, Snow and Ice, 200,000. 491, Cemetery Department, 70,655. 510, Health Department, 69,723. 541, Elder and Human Services, 124,434. 543, Veterans Services, 126,515. 610, Reuben Hoare Library, 526,523. 630, Park and Recreation Department, 102,000. 690, Other Culture and Recreation, 1,250. 710, Long-Term Debt, 3,309,482. 720, Short-Term Debt, 3,963,190. The funding summary, net budgets, 37,600,110. Transfers in, 1,023,242. Total appropriated budgets, 36,576,868. And you'll note that the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the School Committee all support Article 4. I didn't hear a hold on any line items. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to any element of the budget or ask any questions before we proceed to a vote? Yes, sir. Please come to the microphone in the center.
Mark Rambacher, 205 Hartwell. I have a question on Department 241. Apologize for not giving a hold. The personnel services went up $80,000, and we're covering that by a transfer in. Is this going to be a net zero going forward, where the personnel is going to be the same and the transfers are going to be roughly the same, or is this a one-time transfer fee and we're going to be hit with a larger number next year?
Okay, thank you, sir. Finance Director?
Mr. Moderator, this is an accounting change. The personnel services are level. There is no increase in employee count or hours. These funds were previously paid for out of a revolving account, but we're going to account for them all in the general fund for better presentation going forward. So there is no impact to staffing, there is no increase, and it is sustainable. It is paid from the fees collected for these services.
Thank you. there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Okay. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Anna Mayer, 29 Juniper Road. I just had a question about 301, technical school expenditures, about actually how the budget has been going steadily down. I thought we were supposed to be increasing technical training of that sort, and I'm wondering why, and is it going to go down to nothing eventually? Or are we planning to keep that up?
Thank you. Finance Director?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There actually has been a decrease in enrollment at the Neshoba Tech. There were 38 students, I believe, last year, and we're down to 33 this year. So while the per-student cost typically does go up annually, we're recognizing a reduction due to enrollment only.
Thank you. Okay, well, was there a question about Neshoba Tech? I'll hear from Mr. Ellis for a brief moment. Yes, please come to the microphone, Charlie.
Mr. Moderator, I didn't hear the complete question. On the decrease in the funding issue, on the funding, is that what the question was?
Yes, that's correct.
As Bonnie had mentioned, we have noticed a decrease in the amount of students coming from Littleton to the Neshoba Valley Technical High School. And each town in the district is assessed a minimum amount. And so that decrease is a direct reflection of the students who have chosen not to go to Neshoba Valley Technical High School, which is a bonus for the town of Littleton this year, but it could change next year and go the other way. So it just depends on the time and the students that are coming. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, if there isn't anyone else, so we'll proceed to a vote. The main motion under Article 4, and at the conclusion of Article 4, we'll adjourn to the special town meeting until that business is done. So all those in favor of the motion as read under Article 4, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. I declare it to be a unanimous vote, and the motion passes. And please so record, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the annual town meeting until such time as the business of the special town meeting has been completed and that special town meeting has been dissolved. Do I hear such a motion? So moved. Seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? We have adjourned, which means we're taking a brief recess from the annual town meeting, and we're starting with the special town meeting, which in your booklet starts on page 8. It comes before the annual town meeting. The first article, bills of prior years. We've been informed that there are no bills from prior years, and the selectmen have asked us to pass over Article 4, so we will do that. Madam Clerk, please record that no affirmative action was taken on Article 1. Article 2, FY 2015 line item transfers. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to amend the FY 2015 operating budget as adopted under Article 4 of the May 5, 2014 annual town meeting and amended by Article 2 of the November 12, 2014 special town meeting by adjusting budget line items as follows. And then you see a number of line items, some of which are increasing and some of which are decreasing. The net amount is 0. I'll recognize Selectman Carr, the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. These are budget adjustments that the finance team deems necessary to bring the budget back into line. It's sort of a house cleaning for fiscal year 15.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to Article 2? the budget line item transfers? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. And Madam Clerk, please so record. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Article 3, Snow and Ice Supplemental Appropriation. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $40,000 for snow and ice removal. I recognize, is it again Mr. Carr?
Thank you, Mr.
Board of
Moderator. We had a wicked lot of snow. This is the state authorized cities and towns to increase this expenditure, so the town needed to do it for $40,000.
Okay. Anyone wish to speak to Article 3, Snow and Ice Supplemental Appropriation? Yes, sir.
Jared Elpiori, New Estate Road. What was the final bill for snow and ice this year? I'm just curious.
All right.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
we are at almost $690,000 in expenditures, and we had budgeted for $650,000.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. I declare it a vote. We'll move on to Article 4, FY 2015 Capital Improvements Plan Adjustments. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 4 as printed in the warrant. Mr. Carr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, this is a capital improvement plan adjustments for projects that were previously done to clean up existing balances.
All right, thank you. Anyone wishes to be heard regarding Article 4? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. I declare it a vote. We will move on to Article 5, Board of Water Commissioners, FY 2015 Water Enterprise Fund Transfers. Moved and seconded by the Board of Water Commissioners that the town vote to approve Article 5 as printed in the warrant. And I think this is probably as good a time as any for me to introduce to you Scott Edwards, the General Manager of our Littleton Electric Light and Water Department.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This article basically is to move budgeted water surplus funds into the FY15 budget. Approximately $60,000 of that will be moved for expenses, and these were under-budgeted expenses basically due to the new Beaverbrook treatment plant, and $100,000 will be moved into our capital fund for future capital improvements. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
I think Scott summed it up pretty well, so no, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to Article 5? If not, we'll proceed to a vote on the motion as read. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously, and I declare it to be a vote. Thank you very much. Article 6 is being withdrawn by the Board of Water Commissioners, so we will pass over Article 6. And Madam Clerk, please so record that no affirmative action was taken on Article 6. Article 7, Roadway Improvement Plan Supplemental Borrowing. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 7 as printed in the warrant. Could we hear from the Finance Director?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a supplemental borrowing that will need to secure the reconstruction of New Estate Road. This has been in the plan for the last 5 years or so. We knew this was going to be coming up. This borrowing will be done inside the levy limit. This is not an exclusion vote or anything. It will not require a ballot vote. It will be funded within the operating budget. We adopted a 10-year roadway plan several years ago, of which we've spent approximately $10 million reconstructing some of the major roadways in town, and this is the next project as part of that.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to Article 7, the supplemental borrowing for the roadway improvement plan? This is a borrowing authorization. It does require a 2/3 vote, which by town bylaw requires the use of the ballot and checklist unless we can obtain a unanimous vote, and thereby we ask one voter to cast a vote presumably in favor to make it a unanimous vote and satisfy the bylaw requirement. So we'll try to do this on a voice vote. If it's not unanimous, then we will have to count, or we will have to do the ballot and checklist vote. So all those in favor of the motion as read under Article 7, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. If I could have one voter come forward, maybe a random voter, maybe Mr. Clyde, a disinterested observer to the roadway improvement plan, if you could cast that vote, that would be great. All right, the motion passes by a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. We'll move to Article 8, which is the final article in the special town meeting warrant. The motion is on page 12. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 3B and a half, to appropriate/transfer to the Community Preservation Fund the following additional municipal revenues totaling $254,968. 1, $46,186 to the CPA Community Housing Reserve from the Reed Meadow Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. 2, $143,682 to the CPA Open Space Reserve from the Conservation Land Acquisition Funds established by Article 1 of the June 15, 2000 special town meeting for cell tower leases at Newtown Hill. And 3, $65,100 to the CPA Historic Resources Reserve from the 15 Great Road Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. And you note that the Community Preservation Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Selectmen all support Article 8. Mr. Ravella.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The CPA blended act, if you will, somewhat analogous to a 401k, where you're putting your money in and then your employer also matches up to some point. It was adopted in 2014 here in the town, in the first town in the Commonwealth to actually adopt this. As you can see, it takes the CPA property tax we're already paying, we're doing 1%, and the max by state law is up to 3%. What we can do is from appropriated funds, and then we're asking you this evening, to actually add to that 1% where we could go to the 3% maximum. And we'll get to a chart in a little while that'll show some of the detail as to what we can achieve by doing this this evening. The moderator's already read some of the numbers, and we'll go over those again here in a future slide. But it's the state matching funds that will be received in October, as it says up there. And certainly the Selectmen, the CPA, the CPC, and the Board of Selectmen have endorsed this and asked for your approval. Just a quick chart just to show as to what it can do. Back 2008 when we first began, that was the property tax surcharge, 1%. And it's 1% going across the years up to this coming fiscal year. You can see it's increased. The state matching fund has gone up and down somewhat, but now the municipal revenues, if we add, and then the state matching fund that goes on top of that, what you see in the FY 2016 number, takes us over $900,000. That were we not to do this, we'd be down in the $300,000 range. And to reiterate what the moderator had said as far as how this is distributed, but then it also shows the state match, which is important. And as we go through it, pardon that, folks. How'd I do, Coach? Apologies, folks. As you can see, $200,000 for recreation, we'd get a $63,000. And that's based on the numbers that have been used somewhat recently. The exact percentage to be determined from the legislature. Open space, 143 and change, and then 45,000 and some that the state would match. The housing, 46, another nearly $15,000 added on that. And if historic, 65,000, excuse me, we'd be adding another 20,000, and then the totals down the bottom. So we are asking you for your support and your approval of this act and this ATM tonight. Thank you. Any questions, folks?
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard or has questions regarding the presentation? Okay, if you please come to the microphone, I'll recognize Mr. Wanzer, the chair of the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Community Preservation Committee are jointly developing a blended CPA long-range spending plan in order to better integrate the CPA into the town's financial policies and procedures, including operating and capital budgeting and short and long-range fiscal planning processes. This is ongoing, and it's, I think, reflects the collaborative process between different boards in town, given that this money is a significant increase in what we're able to do. It also involves, we hope, great involvement from the public through a process of defining the needs of the community, which is going to be work that our committee does on an ongoing basis over the next year, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just a brief question. Jonathan Leibowitz, Foster Street. The motion as it's printed for each of these under 1, 2, and 3 has 4 community housing for conservation for historic resources purposes. When you read the article, you did not read those elements. Is that taken out, or is it just you were just being brief? And
Well, I read the motion as it's printed. I think that's what the boards are asking to be approved. Town Administrator Bergman.
Mr. Moderator, through you to the previous speaker, the motion as offered does propose to put the funds in the article in the same buckets as are presented in the article. As the chart shows up on the screen, and as you can see on page 12 of the town meeting report, that this article is proposing to put money into 3 buckets: the open space, community housing, and historic resources. We've also listed recreation. That was done last November. So the idea is to maximize the state matching funds that we can get by putting funds that we have available into the Community Preservation Fund. That will attract additional state matching funds, and those can be used at future town meetings when we have projects that are eligible for CPA funding.
Community housing reserved for community housing purposes. When you, Mr. Moderator, read that, you did not read the 4 community housing purposes, and similarly under 2 and 3, you did not read 4 conservation and passive recreation or 4 historic resources. Is there a significance to that, or am I missing something?
It wasn't in the motion, and that's why I didn't read it.
Oh, okay, it's in the printed motion, it is in.
It may be in the explanatory materials in the town meeting handbook. Okay, no, I take your point. I'm happy to read the motion again in the interest of getting it correct.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Just to clarify, there's a lot of information loaded into this article, and what we tried to do was to have the motion be as simple and elegant as possible. The motion's at the bottom. It moves particular dollar sums into what I'm calling the buckets, the community preservation buckets for particular purposes. But since where the funds are coming from is a little more complicated than that, we've added an explanation up above, which says if it comes from a mitigation account or if it comes from some other place, that's important for you to know as voters, so where it came from, but it need not be part of the motion. And that's why the motion is shorter and simpler than the rest of the explanatory materials.
Okay, well, in the interest of correctness, I will read, I'm looking at something that's slightly different, but I'll read what's printed in your handbook because that's what you're all looking at. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 3B and a half, to appropriate transfer to the Community Preservation Fund the following additional municipal revenues totaling $254,968. 46,186 to the CPA Community Housing Reserve for community housing purposes from the Reed Meadow Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. 143,682 to the CPA Open Space Reserve for conservation and passive recreation purposes from the Conservation Land Acquisition Funds established by Article 1 of the June 15, 2000 special town meeting for cell tower leases at Newtown Hill, and 65,100 to the CPA Historic Resources Reserve for historic resources purposes from the 15 Great Road Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. And I thank you for that correction, sir. Okay, yes, sir.
Lou Sirocco, 24 Lawrence Street. I was looking at the state match numbers, and they don't seem to add up. The last digit, the units digit, I think is off by one.
All right. Thank you. All right, so I think we'll move to a vote unless anyone has anything further. Yes, sir? Yes, please.
Helen Bailey, Roxbury Drive. Does this mean that we are moving money out of acquisition, acquiring conservation land?
Good answer.
Mr. Bergman?
Mr. Moderator, through you to the previous speaker. We are moving funds from one, in the case of the open space funds, we're moving them from one fund, which is currently restricted to conservation and open space and passive recreation, into another fund that is limited to the exact same purposes, no different.
Okay, but one of them says acquisition, and the new one doesn't say acquisition.
The purposes in the Community Preservation Act include acquisition of funds. And
but they do not say that in the new things. They all talk about recreation. I don't see anything in the new things that say anything about acquisition, and that's what the funds were designated for.
Yeah. Town Council is Mr. Moderator, through you to the previous speaker, Town Council is reminding me that conservation and passive recreation are for conservation land acquisition. That is the purpose of these funds being moved from one account to another, because because only by moving them into the conservation and passive recreation account for the Community Preservation Act, are we able to get the state matching funds? Moreover, as Town Council has ruled for us before, the restrictions that are attached to the monies currently survive the transfer to the new funds. So those funds are limited to conservation land acquisition now. They will be limited for that purpose in the Community Preservation Fund. And it will be this town meeting in the future that votes to use those funds to make open space acquisitions. That's what we do with sizable sums in open space.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes by a unanimous vote, and I so declare. Thank you very much. I will now entertain a motion to dissolve the special town meeting, which will bring us back to the annual town meeting. Do I hear a motion to dissolve the special town meeting? Seconded? Moved and seconded to dissolve the special town meeting. All those in favor? Those opposed? Special town meeting is dissolved, and we will rejoin the annual town meeting. You'll recall we had just passed the operating budget under Article 4, and we will next take up the business of Article 5. I need to squeeze in a brief commercial here, if I could, before we start. If you're 50 years or older, you probably get a postcard in the mail this week. The Council on Aging is doing a senior needs community survey funded by town meeting. So we all have an interest in seeing that the project is successful. You'll be receiving a survey in the mail shortly, and we ask that you complete it and return it so that our results are all the more valid. Thank you very much. And I was also remiss in my recognitions earlier. I had meant to recognize tonight our Deputy Fire Chief, Tom Clancy, and our Deputy Police Chief, Jeff Patterson. Thank you. All right, now we will start with Article 5, which is the FY 2016 Water Enterprise Fund budget. Moved and seconded by the Board of Water Commissioners that the town vote to appropriate $3,103,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund to finance the operation of the Water Department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015. The Finance Committee, the Water Commissioners, and the Selectmen all support Article 5. Does anyone wish to speak with respect to Article 5? The Board of Selectmen, Selectman Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. Article 5 is the fund for the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2016. There's a requested increase of $458,000 or 17.3% over fiscal year 2015, reflecting recent water rate increases that were adopted by the Board of Water Commissioners. And those funds will be used to fund some capital projects, including improvements to the Beaverbrook Well number 2 at a cost of $3.75 million. And in addition, there's no general fund subsidy for the Water Enterprise Fund, as it is fully funded by water revenues.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to Article 5, the Water Enterprise Fund budget? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. No, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Mark Rambacher, 205 Hartwell. Can someone speak to why the expenses went up 25%? That's not under capital. That's not a one-time outlay.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Edwards.
Yes, we've put the new Beaverbrook treatment plan online, and as you may recall earlier, we did have to move some money in FY15 into our expense budget to cover for that. So we've made sure this year that we've we have enough in the expense line item to cover for that treatment plant. It's, the chemicals, the electricity, to pump the extra water. We're going to be using that well number 2 quite a bit now because it is treated water.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak with respect to Article 5? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. It passes. The motion passes by unanimous vote, and I so declare. Thank you very much. Moving on to Article 6, the FY 2016 Park, Recreation, and Community Education Enterprise Fund Operating Budget. Moved and seconded by the Park and Recreation Commission that the town vote to appropriate $877,894 from the Park, Recreation, and Community Education Enterprise Fund to finance the operation of the Park, Recreation, and Community Education Department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015. And you'll note the Finance Committee, the Park and Rec Commission, and the Selectmen all support Article 6. Mr. Carr?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Folks, this is an article for the operation of the Park and Rec and Community Ed program. The $877,894 is for fees that were collected by them, and $102,000, which we just voted on, is in the general fund for the operation of the Park and Rec.
Thank you. Anyone who wishes to speak to Article 6 of the annual town meeting? If not, we'll proceed to a motion. All those in favor of the motion under Article 6 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Article 7, FY 2016 capital items from available funds. Now, I'm going to read the motion, which is fairly brief, and then I'm going to go back and similarly to the operating budget, I'll go through each of the individual items in case there are questions. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to raise and appropriate $852,531 and transfer from the undesignated fund balance the sum of $918,280 for a total of $1,770,811 for capital projects and purchases itemized and described in Article 7 as printed in the warrant. And you'll note that the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the School Committee all support Article 7. I'm going to read through the items by department. And again, if anyone wants to put a hold on any of those for further discussion or for questions, please feel free to do so. Roman numeral 1, Police Department. Police Interceptor Patrol Vehicles, $102,923. B, Police Interceptor Unmarked Vehicles, $43,208. C, Police Public Safety Radio Maintenance, $12,000. D, Police Vehicle Maintenance, $6,500. Roman numeral 2, Fire Department. A, Fire Major Equipment Repair, $15,000. B, Protective Clothing Replacement, $12,000. C, Engine 2 Combination Rescue Pumper, $550,000. Roman numeral 3, Highway Department. A, Highway Major Equipment Repair, $15,000. B, Highway Mack Truck Repairs, $25,000. Hold. Highway Department, item B. Item C, Highway Backhoe, $150,000. Roman numeral 4, schools. Item A, MacBook Air laptops, $35,000. B, LHS Classroom Life Skills Retrofit, $45,000. C, school freezers, $6,000. D, Chromebook computer systems and equipment, $45,000. E, miscellaneous technology equipment replacement, $25,000. F, school textbooks, resource materials, and training, $70,000. Roman numeral 5, facilities and infrastructure. Facility needs assessment study recommendations, $427,280. Item B, fire station modular building, $6,000. Cemetery HVAC system, $25,000. Roman numeral 6, other. A, cemetery mower, $4,900. B, park and recreation major equipment and repairs, $50,000. C, master plan update, $100,000. Okay, I heard a hold only on Roman numeral 3, highway department. Item B, highway Mack truck repairs, $25,000.
Jared
yes, sir.
Elpiori, New Estate Road. The question I have is, if you found one crack in the frame, are there other cracks? Or is this repair going to replace pretty much the whole structure underneath?
All right, thank you. Mr. Knox? Okay, Mr. Clyde.
It's going to replace the whole frame in the truck, both sides.
All right. Hearing no other questions, we'll proceed to a vote on the capital budget. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion passes by a unanimous vote, and I so declare. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Article 8, the Community Preservation Committee FY 2016 budget. Moved and seconded by the Community Preservation Committee that the town vote to approve the appropriations and reserves itemized and described in Article 8 as printed in the warrant. Board of Selectmen, Ms. Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 8 contains the recommendations that the CPC, or Community Preservation Committee, has made to use Community Preservation Act funds for open space, historic preservation, community housing. And this includes debt service for previously approved projects. So you can see in your pamphlet on page 25 kind of the whole list of items there. There are a couple new projects. $8,000 being requested for the Historical Society to protect their windows from UV radiation, and for the Houghton Memorial Building, and also $18,000 from the Housing Authority for new heating systems at Pine Tree Park.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard with respect to Article 8? Do we have, I think if you hold on just a second, Jerry, do we have the chair of the CPC? Is he still here? I think we'd like to hear the recommendation from the committee. Mr. Wanzer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. The budget as printed here includes the two projects outlined by the select person, and those projects came to us during this year, and by town meeting vote, all the people here declare that they support these projects. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
One question on Pine Tree Park. Why isn't that covered by the rents and other income you get from that? operation? Is that property not self-supporting?
Mr. Bergman?
Mr. Moderator, through you to the previous speaker, I'll start out with an answer, and then I see a member of the Housing Authority is here as well, that the needs of our Littleton Housing Authority are not fully met by the funding that they get from the state. And there are any number of projects that are needed in addition where this town meeting can use our community preservation housing funds to allow our housing authority to make capital improvements that go beyond the limited funds that they get from the state. It's an ongoing issue that the housing authority has. We met with our state legislative delegation just a week or so ago to go over a long laundry list of capital needs that our housing authority has. The state will not be coming forward anytime soon with all the money that our housing authority needs to do what they're doing. We can help to a degree through our use of community housing funds, and that's what this is about.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak with respect to Article 8, the Community Preservation Budget for FY 2016? All right, if not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. Moving on to Article 9, collective bargaining agreements. I will direct your attention to the yellow update sheet that you picked up on your way in, presumably, hopefully. This describes the funding necessary for 3 proposed agreements. The motion is moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums necessary to fund the cost items contained in collective bargaining agreements reached between the town and its employee unions. And you will see listed there the 3 unions for which there are tentative agreements between the town and the union membership and the cost of each of those agreements. I will turn to the Board of Selectmen for an update. Is it Selectman Carr? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the town's bargaining team has been meeting with the unions for the past four or so months. And as you can see in the handout, we've ratified 3 of the 4 unions, the fire, dispatch, and highway. The contracts are 3-year contracts through June 30, 2018, with a 2% increase in each year. And funding is necessary to ratify and complete the contracts. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we hear a recommendation from the Finance Committee with respect to Article 9? I know you met earlier this evening. Okay. Finance Committee also recommends passage of Article 9. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to Article 9? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read under Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Article 10, Personnel Bylaw Amendments. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to amend the Personnel Bylaw and Classification and Compensation Plan, Chapter 33 of the Town Code, as recommended by the Personnel Board, as printed in the motion on pages 25 to 30 of the Town Meeting Report, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $58,602 to fund salary adjustments for non-union employees. And I think actually you'll find the changes on pages 26 to 31 in your handout. Or at least the handout that I have, they're on page 26 to 31. With that, I'll turn to the Board of Selectmen. Selectman McCurdy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is sort of like reading tax code, I guess. It's kind of lengthy. So I'll try to summarize it. We have the chairman of the Personnel Board here and other people who can weed into it to whatever depth you'd like to see. Article 10 amends the personnel bylaw relative to a certain number of things. From time to time, we have to amend the bylaw. One, to come into compliance with federal law. Two, to establish best practices. And in this particular year, we were given goals by the Board of Selectmen to accomplish. Those are reflected in the bylaw. And it also reflects an equalizing increase of 2% to go along with what we just appropriated in Article 9. So if there are any questions, I would defer them to the chair of the Personnel Board.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard with respect to Article 10 or has questions that they would like the Personnel Board to address? Obviously, there's a lot of text here. The changes are as printed in your handbook, in your town meeting report. Anyone? All right, if not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read under Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. It passes by a unanimous vote. It required only a majority, but I do declare it to be a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. All right, you will recall that earlier this evening we passed Articles 11 through 15 as part of the consent calendar. So that brings us to Article 16, the rescinding of unused borrowing authorizations, sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. All right, moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 16 as printed in the warrant. The Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen both support Article 16. I recognize Selectman McCurdy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Very simply put, this article rescinds the borrowing authority previously voted at town meetings. Now, the list is in your handout. The projects are complete. There is no need to borrow further on the project. Town meeting has to vote to rescind the authority to borrow on those projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone with questions regarding Article 16 or wishes to respond in any fashion to the rescission of previously authorized borrowings by town meeting? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The article passes by a unanimous vote. It required a two-thirds vote, and obviously a unanimous vote satisfies that. So the motion carries, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. We will move to Article 17, which is a zoning bylaw amendment, which also requires a two-thirds vote. And let me find the motion there. Moved and seconded by the Planning Board that the town vote to amend Section 173-10B of the zoning bylaw of the town of Littleton as follows. 1. Amend Section 1 to read as follows. Alteration of non-conforming structures with respect to an existing non-conformity. The Board of Appeals may, by special permit, allow the reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change of a pre-existing nonconforming structure that extends or increases an existing nonconformity where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconforming structure to the neighborhood. 2, insert a new subsection 2 to read as follows. Alteration of nonconforming structures with respect to a new nonconformity. For any reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change of a nonconforming structure that involves the creation of a new nonconformity, such new nonconformity shall require the issuance of a variance from the Board of Appeals. 3, insert a new subsection 3 to read as follows. Alteration of a nonconforming use. The Board of Appeals may, by special permit, allow the change, extension, or alteration of a pre-existing nonconforming use where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconforming use to the neighborhood. 4, renumber existing subsections 2, restoration, and 3, abandonment as subsections 4 and 5, respectively, to account for the new subsections as provided for above. And you'll note that the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Board of Selectmen all support Article 17. Before we hear the presentation, the Planning Board, for any zoning amendment, is required to hold a public hearing and to make a report to town meeting. I have a copy of that report, but if there's a member of the Planning Board handy, if you would could come to the microphone and make that report to town meeting, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Planning Board held a public hearing on this article, and we support it, and hope that it's not as confusing as it looks. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to have Board of Selectmen, Selectman Knox.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As a former member of the Board of Appeals, I know how often this topic comes up, and due to case law, the ZBA has requested some changes. I'd like to yield now to the chairman of the ZBA so she can better inform people what these changes actually are. Ms. Sherry Gould.
All right. Chair recognizes Sherry Gould for the purposes of the presentation under Article 17.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, Mr. Moderator. The written print is a lot more difficult than it looks. I'm going to try to simplify it. Special permits are granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals on a very easy standard. That is, it just has to be not more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity.
Excuse me, if you could hold that microphone a little higher, that'd be great. Thank you.
Variances are a more difficult standard. You have to prove that there's a hardship, and then you have to prove that you're not substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. In the past, most of Massachusetts case law has held that if you have a non-conforming structure or a non-conforming lot, and we have many in Littleton, there would be lots under 1 acre, or there would be properties that are built so that they don't meet the zoning dimensional requirements of Littleton. If you had one of those non-conformities, in the past you were allowed to change, extend, or alter it on a special permit, which was that light standard. According to the most recent case law, Diedrich, which came down in 2014, it was decided that if you had an existing nonconformity and you wanted to make more of it, that you should be able to do that by a special permit. But if you had a property that had an existing nonconformity and you wanted to make a new nonconformity, that you should be required to go to the higher standard of a variance. So for instance, if I have a house that is too close to the street and I want to replace my front steps that are too close to the street with a farmer's porch, that would be a special permit. But if on that same house I wanted to add a big family room to the side that would then violate a side setback, the state is saying, the case law is saying, we now need to look at that under the variance standard, the higher standard. And so we are just asking for this housekeeping change to our zoning bylaw to bring that zoning bylaw in conformity with the new case law to make it easier for applicants to understand what they need to request.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with regard to Article 17? Yes, sir.
Brian Tarbox, Fletcher Lane. I just have a question about a butter notification. If I'm an abutter to a property that is in one of these situations and they want to extend an existing nonconformity, do I still get a chance to get told about it and weigh in about whether I think it, as an abutter, does or doesn't impact me?
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, to the previous speaker, yes, these requests still have to come before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Abutters will get notice the same way they always have, and they will all come and be entitled to be heard. But this is intended so that both the applicant and the abutters will know which standard is being applied.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak with respect to this article? Okay. Yes.
Charlotte Russell, 73 Foster Street. I just have a question in number 3 where it says, once changed to a conforming use, no structure or land shall be permitted to revert to a non-conforming use. And I'm wondering if that is a little broad, that it basically says never. Shouldn't another non-conforming use be subject to the appeals board like any non-conforming use would be? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to answer, Mr. Moderator, but I will defer to Town Council if he thinks he would like to add something. Currently, Massachusetts and our zoning bylaw provides that there's a 2-year sort of sunset provision on non-conforming uses and non-conforming structures. So if the use or the structure is abandoned for a period of 2 years, it does revert and not go back. Someone who wanted to reestablish it would have to come before the board again and ask for a variance to reestablish it. It's felt that 2 years is sort of plenty of time to either continue a use or to sell a property or whatever you need to do. So they're saying use it or lose it, essentially, and that's straight out of the Massachusetts general laws.
Okay. Thank you. Town Council?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a clarification. The language, if I'm following previous speaker's comment, the language is in the original current version of Section 3. It was struck in the motion, so it's actually that language is being removed from Section 3. Similar language still exists in what will be the new Section 5.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard with respect to Article 17? Yes. If you could either come to the microphone or if there's one handy. I'm not sure where it is. There you go. Mr. Curry has it.
Hi, this is Anna Mayer, 29 Juniper Road. I just noticed that Sherry said that it wouldn't be able to be more detrimental if you proposed a non-conforming use. However, the language in these phrases is substantially more detrimental. That means, I would think, that you could be more detrimental than your current non-conforming use. I'm not sure what would be considered substantially more. Could you clarify that, please?
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Gould?
The standard for special permits is that it be not substantially more detrimental, and your comment is well taken and is correct. Who determines substantially more detrimental? It's a combination of the applicant, the abutters, the board's deliberation. The Board of Appeals is a board that is supposed to weigh the zoning bylaw and the interests of the public against the individual needs as they come before the board. So it's on a case-by-case basis. And we are truly guided by the abutters who appear and the letters we get and the building inspector's comments. So, and a 9-member board, each of whom comes from a different background.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak regarding this article? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a zoning bylaw amendment. It requires a 2/3 vote. I'll attempt to have a voice vote first. If the vote is unanimous, I can declare that a 2/3 vote, and we can move forward. Anything short of unanimous, and I'm not trying to influence anyone, we will have to do a count. So I'll need help from some tellers if we have less than a unanimous vote. Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read under Article 17, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? Those opposed? All right, I do hear at least 1 or 2 nays, so we will count. If I could get 2 or 3 tellers to come forward. Yes. Okay. All right. Town Council reminds me that for the purposes of a zoning bylaw, that the moderator can declare a 2/3 vote. So we'll do it one more time. I don't think I was in doubt, but I don't think we'll need you, Jim, this time. Thank you for coming forward. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. It passes by the necessary 2/3 majority, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Article 18. This is a general bylaw amendment. It requires a simple majority vote. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 18 as printed in the warrant. You'll see that the Board of Selectmen and the Sustainability Committee, their recommendations are forthcoming here at town meeting. I'll recognize Selectman Hebert for this article.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 18 talks about the Stretch Energy Code and asks, thank you, and asks Littleton to adopt that as an alternative to the base energy code, which we've already adopted. It's a more energy efficient code, and I think the important thing about this is it's one of 5 criteria that enables us to become a green community. And if we become a green community, not only are we obviously more environmentally friendly, but we can apply for government grants, including $140,000 and other competitive grants that we can bid for. So I think it's important that we adopt this energy code. 147 communities around us, ones that we know quite well, have already adopted it. I think there's a map that kind of shows most of the state is really, yeah, thanks, Keith. Yep, you can see a growing trend here. All the communities in yellow have already adopted. And and maybe Roland. Are you serious?
Is it?
Is
Building
Roland around? Roland Bernier, where is it?
Okay. The chair recognizes Roland Bernier, Building Commissioner for the town of Littleton. Making his town meeting debut, I think, after about 35 years.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you. What was the question? I guess the question would be, what impact does this code have over the 2012 code that we currently are using? And the impact would be negligible. It really has no impact. To adopt the stretch code would be virtually a lateral move. We already do blower door tests, we do duct tests. We would be using a HERS rater instead to conduct those tests. In fact, we have contractors in town that already are adopting the stretch code and they're implementing it into our new homes. So it's an equivalent to what we already use. So why not adopt it and collect some revenue, some grant money from the state? There's no reason not to adopt it. So I would urge this body to go ahead and approve this.
Okay, thank you. The committee both support passage of Article 18. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to Article 18? Again, this is a general bylaw amendment. It requires a simple majority vote rather than a two-thirds. All right. If there are no questions or no one wishes to speak, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read under Article 18, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. It passes by the necessary majority, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. We will move to Article 19, and if you were following along earlier, you'll realize we've already voted Articles 20 through 22, so in effect this is the final article of the evening. Complete Streets Program, Board of Selectmen. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 19 as printed in the warrant. I recognize for the Board of Selectmen, Selectman Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 19 talks about the Complete Streets Program. And what this program is designed to do is to ensure that communities like our own take into consideration transportation and roadways and transit systems that include all modes of transportation, walking, bicycles, and make sure that those are accessible and safe, basically across the board. So we'd like your support in Littleton becoming part of the Complete Streets Program.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to Article 19, the Complete Streets Program? All right. If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Going once? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion as read under Article 19, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? The ayes have it. It passes by a unanimous vote, and I do so declare. Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, we have already disposed of the remaining articles on the warrant. So before I entertain a motion to dissolve, I would like to thank the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, the Town Administrator and Assistant Town Administrator, Town Clerk, and her staff for their assistance with this special town meeting. And as always, Littleton Community Television for the outstanding job that they've done with the sound and also recording this meeting. We didn't always record town meeting in the past. I think they do an outstanding job with that. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to dissolve. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? This annual town meeting for 2015 is dissolved. Thank you very much. God.
If ever you got rain in your heart, someone has hurt you,